All right. What's happening, y'all? What's going on? We're here to have our second podcast, and we have I hear some music in the background. What is that?
That's Lando with the beats, man. You ain't heard it? You gotta check it out. That's Lando with the beats. You know what I'm saying? What's happening, everybody? Coast to coast, west, west. What's happening?
Was that an original beat by Jonathan?
Yes. You know what I'm saying? I tell you, he dropped that intro beat on the wheel. I'm saying west, west. We gonna get it. What's happening?
I feel like we should have voted on that, man. We should have did a.
Hey, man, you don't be on the email, brother. You don't even check the list. You just.
Oh, that's what we
doing. On there.
It's
been on there. Me and Christina, the only ones who responded.
That's what we doing already, huh?
We already on it. We tried to put it out.
So you called me out, but said you and Christina are the only ones that heard it. So how come I'm the only one anyway?
Because you made a suggestion. You made a suggestion about something we already doing.
Yeah, okay. You got it, big dog.
West. What's up, everybody?
What's up, y'all, man? So y'all ready to talk about dating in 2021?
Yeah.
Y'all ready to talk about relationships and marriage and everything in between?
Let's do it.
Ciao.
All right. So before we go ahead and get into it, let's introduce ourselves, man. And some people know us, some don't. My name is Carlos Jackson. I'm in Oakland, California, assistant minister at West Oakland Church of Christ. But I go by Los, Loso, King Los, Bib Los, and then there's probably 100 other nicknames that I got that I can't share here because I can't keep up with them. But I'll be the moderator today. I will be facilitating the discussion. I'll be asking the questions. And yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to the first lady of the group, Crenshaw Christina Moore. What's happening?
What's up, Los? I'm Christina in the Bay by way of LA. I go by Crenshaw Chris or the Quiet Storm.
Yeah.
Hey, respect. Who got next?
And big homie, you know what I'm saying? Alvin Eddington Jr. LA to LA, back to LA, all day. Shout out to the Bay.
Where you from again, bro?
LA.
Vince, what's happening?
Yo, what's up, y'all? Man, I'm Vince Ford, senior minister at the Genesee Avenue Church. Leno's only country cousin on the podcast, straight out the South, up here in the Midwest. So just happy to be here, to talk. I'm hoping, it's off the hinges today, man. We trying to have a good conversation.
Yeah. Right. So before we go to our brother Leno, man, Vince, why did you shave your beard off? We want to know. You lost like 10 years aesthetically. So what was the motivation behind shaving the beard?
Oh man, it was time to restart, man.
Okay.
All good things come to an end. So it'll be back. Don't worry. I'll be the bearded one soon. It'll grow back quick. You can't tell because of the lighting, but I just shaved yesterday and I already got a whole bunch of hair back on my face. So man, it'll be back. So right now people really know I look like Vinny and Azariah. So we just had to take it down a notch, but we'll be back. We'll be back.
All right, man. Because it looks like you need to carry your ID going to see a rated R movie.
Hey man, the cool thing is, man, I was at a restaurant with some partners the other day with some of my homies, man. They thought we was in the military. So, it was a good thing. They paid for our food, man, I told them I wasn't in the military, so my mama's in the military. He said, well, hey, man, this is just a thank you to your mom for her service. So if it means free food, man, I stay clean shaven.
I'm going to shave right
now. Here we go. Jonathan Leonard, what's happening?
What's happening, everybody? Jonathan Leonard, living in H-Town, Texas, but I'm from the great state of Florida. It's FLA all day, also known as Teflon John. Great to be with y'all. I'm the least of these, by the way. That's my other nickname because I get to hang out with these cool guys and gals.
Here we go. I'm just a humble servant on a pilgrimage to be the best I can be.
Hey, hey, Lena, I want to know, you said guys and gals with an S. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to see who you said is another young lady on
Guys
the
and
pod.
gal, excuse me. Lord,
I just wanted to make sure you weren't taking no shots at
no,
Loso.
I wouldn't do that.
Nah, come on, bro. You know you ain't taking no shot at me, bro. You already know that.
Come on, that's my guy.
Hey man, we got a guest this week, man. Oh, we got a guest.
Man.
Yo, what's happening, family? It's that boy
Yes.
TSS, citizen of the Most High. Yeah, straight from SAC. But we rocking the Fairfield at Bay North, where I worship with Sam Morris and get it in. So yeah, it's a blessing to be here rocking with y'all, coast to coast. We in this thing.
Yeah.
Man. That's my boy from North Sacramento, man. TSS, what does that stand for?
The sun shines. The sun shines. SON.
All right. Yeah, Corey is our artist. He's our Christian hip hop artist and minister. So he's not new to a lot of you guys. He's always on our weekly prayer call, but he's new to the podcast this week. We brought him out so he can give us some balance. So as we get into this discussion, as we get into this conversation tonight, I just want y'all to be yourself, be honest, be authentic, and let's just have a good time, man. Is that all right?
Sure.
Let me ask this up front, man. What's off limits tonight? Because I need to know.
Nothing, man. Just go ahead, man. This is pre-production stuff.
All right. Well, I just want to know. So I'm gonna start with you, big homie. Tell us your situation, man. Are you married, single?
My situation. You sound like Erykah Badu. I'm in a situation. What am I supposed to do? Man, you know what I'm saying? They know what it is, man. I'm married to the best on the West, Sabrina Jones Eddington Jr. Now I'm married with 2 kids, man. You know, in and out of that single life for a long time, man. So I got a lot of stuff to say, man. You know, I got a lot of baggage to throw on y'all tonight.
Okay. All right. How long you been married, big bro?
10 years. It'll be 10 years. October 29th. You know, I'm chasing Vinny, but he keep running, man. I think he hit 10 this year, huh?
Yep. Just hit 10 August 1st. So, you know, almost been so it's a decade now, brother. I'm in it to win it.
Okay. So it seemed like we kind of all got married around the same time. We must have drank the same juice, because next year for me it'll be 10 years in February. Let's
I was a late bloomer, bro. I'm just 2.5 years in the game of marriage.
Similar.
Hey, you see how he threw that of in there? He said of marriage.
Yeah. Let me clarify.
It's all good, man. 2.5 years is still a blessing. Crenshaw, what's up?
What's up?
What's your situation?
You do sound like Badu. I am single. I am single and newly open to dating.
All right. What about Corey Akeem Morton?
Yeah. I'm currently single as well. I've been married 5 years, divorced. And so, yeah, definitely seen a lot too. So,
okay,
hoping to add something for all of us.
All right, let me start there. So, you said single and was divorced. Do you feel like there are any stigmas on being a Christian man in the church being divorced?
Yes, I've experienced some. I've experienced multifacets from congregations not wanting to put me on as their full-time minister because I'm not married, to some women in the church like, oh, he's damaged goods. So yeah, I've experienced both.
Mm. So when you say damaged goods, what are you referring to? What do you mean?
Well, you would have to ask them, but as far as how it went down, it's pretty much they weren't interested. That's what I got out of it. And then the term was damaged goods, which if I had to assume, the interpretation would be he's been with someone for a while. And plus I also do have a child, so that maybe attaching that with it as well, that he's already got a kid and he's been married and divorced. And so dealing with the aftermath of some of those things. But
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and ask Christina this question. What boundaries are necessary and important in terms of relationships?
I feel like a lot are necessary and important, and I'm still learning, but some that I would say is, so I think we talk a lot about physical boundaries in terms of, abstaining from sex before marriage and creating boundaries to foster that. And that's super important. And I think those are conversations that should be had very early on as you're getting to know someone. But I would also add, in addition to that, to also think about emotional boundaries, because I think at times, we may not be crossing physical boundaries, but we're setting ourselves up for emotional heartache when we start to talk about things too early. And that could be, we want to know if, your ultimate goal is marriage, but to get into discussions about what's it going to look like, and just walking down the aisle too soon, I think can cause some emotional connection early on if we're not careful. So I'll say that those are the main ones, just being careful about what you talk about, the timing of it, as well as how often you talk to. I recently read this book called Not Yet Married, and it was super helpful. And it helped me to realize physical boundaries, yes, but emotional boundaries as well. And, even if it's not about talking about marriage, it's just making sure that you're able to maintain some balance outside of the relationship so that that person isn't becoming your all, just putting things in focus. So that might look like maybe we're not spending hours upon hours on the phone every day, right? We're being careful about what we're talking about. We're making sure that we're checking in about spiritual things.
Okay. So you meant, I'm gonna go back to you and then I'm gonna open it up for others. But you just mentioned the word connection. All right. So how important is connection in terms of looking for someone or being in a relationship?
That's a good question. And in my opinion, connection is important. And I think I've had this discussion about connection, and some people are really averse to that word. And I've just been interested to know why. But for me, when I say connection, I think of what sets you apart from someone else. So aside from your spiritual walk or other things that, I'm looking for in a significant other, do I feel a draw towards you? And I think that that is important. And I think that, even if connection isn't the word that, most people would ascribe to, there's something that sets you apart. And, I would be actually interested to know what that was for you all as we talk a little bit more. But I think it's very important.
All right.
Wow, man. I think connection is important. Well, I know connection is important. Don't get me wrong. But I believe that one of the things that we've done, in relationships is we've confused commonality with connection. I don't believe that the success of a relationship is based on commonality. And I feel like my marriage is living proof of that. My wife, she's not into sports. And we do have some connections. We have some things that we're connected on from a common place. But for the most part, it's just the fact that I know I can talk to her. The conversation is not forced. And that was one of the beautiful things that really just drew me in, was I didn't have to initiate conversation. there were things that she wanted to talk about and pick my brain about. And that kind of put me in a place like, oh, okay, there's a sense of interest. And I think we've just defined connection from a horrible place. We feel like we got to like the same things or we got to enjoy the same things. And that's not always necessarily true. And I think that's one of the things we can learn from older couples. Like my grandparents, my grandparents, there wasn't really much that they had in common, but there was a lot that they could connect on because, they were vulnerable enough to even have conversations that, they may have been on opposite sides of the fence on. And I think that's the beauty, like even when I counsel couples, I tell them, the amount of arguments isn't the denominator of success. What success boils down to is like how well you handle disagreements. We could have 5 or 6 disagreements, but if me and Antoinette handle them properly, it's still a good week. We have the breakdowns in our conversation when we're not talking or, when we're communicating in different languages, that's when the connection is off. So, even from a single place, I haven't been single in a very long time. I got married when I was 25 years old. You know what I mean? But one of the things was like, I didn't necessarily feel rushed into it. But I do tell a lot of my partners, because for the most part, a lot of guys I grew up with aren't married. And I do tell a lot of them, man, like, it's not something that you really want to rush into. Because even though there was a high level of attraction, even though there was a high level of connection, it was still a situation in which, there was a lot to learn. And I just think that there's a lot of things that we got to learn about ourselves before we put ourselves in that position of covenant.
Let me ask this, Vince. Let me ask this. You mentioned high level of connection, and this is open for all of us. So, what can you elaborate on what a high level of connection is, and did you have that? Did you see that connection beforehand?
Yeah, I saw it because I met my wife randomly. Like I had no intentions of, I was kind of actually still in a relationship when I met my wife. When I met my wife, no lie, I ain't gonna lie to you. I had a little situation going on. I just happened to be in the place to be by myself. I had no checks and balances. And the conversation just like, man, it went so well, man. I couldn't like be like, man, I couldn't turn a blind eye to the way the conversation was going. I was like, yo, I gotta do some research, man, because the conversation had never sparked like that, and so when it did, it showed me a few things, but it also showed me as well is, sometimes with relationship, we can chase a high. If that first date is like just, if it's off the hands, what I'm saying, it's great. You know what I mean? And you got to be careful because you can get frustrated by trying to recreate those first moments every day. And every day is not like the first 10 minutes that you meet somebody, and just, a little story, like, so I met my wife at the National Youth Conference. I was 20, I was 19, she was 18. 6 months later, I went to go visit her in Arizona. Okay. That trip was horrible. It was horrible. It kind of ended on a good note, but like the first 4 to 5 days, it was almost like we were trying to recreate that same energy. And it felt forced, because, we've been on the phone, we've been talking, oh, I miss you, I can't wait to see you, and I mean, this is before FaceTime and all that sort of stuff. So we barely Skyping with dorm room internet, you know what I'm saying? We tried to recreate that energy and it didn't work, right? And so we actually like, it kind of like cut off, you know what I mean? Like from 2006 to 2010, I mean, it was a high and by every now and then on social media, but it wasn't anything to build off of. So, you got to be careful. You got to be really, really careful. I think that's why it was a brilliant point made by Christina, because, you know, a lot of times we jump into things and we talk about, you know, emotionally sensitive things way too early. And a lot of times, many people see those heavy conversations as interests, and when in all actuality, sometimes we just get caught up in talking. And we believe, oh, well, they asked me about this, they must be concerned about that. It might not be that. I mean, they might just want to know. So when it comes to connection, I think it's something that you build. But I also believe that it's something that you have to be careful that you don't go on this, this chase to try to recreate something or recreate a spark, because all sparks are different. So you gotta figure out a way to get to know the person.
Okay, I'm a segue this conversation. This is for you, Alvin. So Vince mentioned the spark. All right. So in regards to the connection and the spark, what sparked what connection and what spark was most important for you when you met your wife? Was it the physical, or was it the mental, or the soul? What was it?
When I first met her, we was at church and I was dating somebody else. She was dating somebody else. She's my homeboy's niece. So, she was off limits. She was she wasn't my type physically. She wasn't my type, and I didn't know her spiritually, and I didn't know her as a friend. So I don't think the spark came until we started. We had a small group at our church, and since she was small group was after church on Sundays, and we started this group, and that's when I started to get to know her outside of her walking in there, looking fly, looking cute, hair done, nails done, everything done. That's what I saw. She in church, sitting in the corner, then she out of church. That's all I knew before that small group. So that small group setting got to allow me to get to know her outside of what I had seen before. And it wasn't even there that I started to be attracted to her, because I felt at that point in time in her life, I was just looking for something spiritually that was, where she wasn't yet. I didn't know what God was doing with her, but I knew she wasn't where, the type of woman I would want to date at that time. And, I was also dating somebody, so I was, checking on her like that. So after I broke up, or actually my ex gave me an ultimatum. She told me either I come spend more time with her, or, what I'm saying, you don't give A-Love no ultimatum. Don't do that. And so anyways, I got that ultimatum, and Sabrina actually tried to get me to get back with my girlfriend. Sabrina, we became friends through that small group. And so my girlfriend was in the small group, we were all in the group together. And so, it wasn't until the spark came, me and my girlfriend are together. I'm not even checking for Sabrina. She's spiritually immature, right? So she had sent me this text one morning of encouragement. Like, I'm praying for you today, sending a scripture with it, have a blessed day. Boom. It wasn't nothing I felt was flirtatious. It was just like, I a sister looking out like, that doesn't happen. Right. And so that was the first thing that got me to kind of like, okay, turn my head towards her if you were in a different way. So that was the spark for me. But we were friends for probably over a year at that time. My friends as in associates who would, check in on each other. Like I said, she checked me about getting back with my girlfriend. So she was close enough to me to check me.
Okay. Jonathan, what's up?
Man, I first have to thank you for meeting my wife, because that's how I saw her in the first place. I think you had gone to a conference in North Carolina, and me and you been rocking since '06, and her picture popped up, and I was like, oh, who is that? Chocolate, beautiful thing. And so that's kind of how I started. I saw her first, and from there, reached out, started talking or whatever. And again, she was in church. I knew that, but we've all talked to people in the church that aren't necessarily mature, myself included. But our conversations were mature. What I mean by that is we started talking about like God and the Bible and things like that, which isn't really normal. The other stuff came, we like music and all that, but it led off with God and just the conversations we had about, sermons and like going into depth of detail. And like, she knows her Bible too. So, I don't know, again, it was different for me, which I appreciated from her. And that's really what got me intrigued. But well, her picture first and then the conversation afterwards, because I've seen Pretty Women before. And then, you talk to them, it's like, okay, well, it's not very fulfilling, or it's kind of surface level things. And so that was different about her, and I appreciated that.
Okay. Let me throw this question out there. This is a general question. So do you guys prefer the term dating, mating, or courting, or does it even matter?
Who cares?
Yeah, I would say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think what matters is the understanding that y'all have. Right? If you have a different definition for dating than I do, then we're not on the same page. So
okay. So what is the? Go ahead.
I said something real quick, man. I want to, when Corey was talking at the beginning, I guess the question was posed, based off of the fact that he had been married before. Does he find it more difficult to, to date because of that, whatever stigma that may bring? I've been divorced as well, and for whatever reason, I didn't get that, I didn't get that, I don't know, maybe because my ex wasn't in church or anything like that. Nobody really knew what happened. They just knew that it wasn't my fault. so I don't know, but I didn't have a problem, finding, people to date or to get to know. But what my question was based off that though was like, how do you guys think that, like, do you guys see a difference in how women who are divorced in the church have, deal with, finding someone or labeling or whatever it is that goes on? I really don't know, to be honest. Do you guys think there is a difference between men and women being able to rebound from a quote unquote, not quote unquote, from a divorce or a bad relational situation, and being able to find someone who's not going to necessarily hold that against them? Or is it like, you guys understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd say it's difficult for women, period, whether they divorced or not, just because people don't like to hear this, but the ratio of men to women, like, it's men have a better ratio, right? They can essentially choose because it's one man for every however many women. So I do think it's more difficult for women, especially in the church, because when I went to FAMU, I think the ratio was like 1 to 11, one man to every 11 women. When you get to the church, it's probably even a bigger ratio. So then you add in complicating factors like other things, life situations, whatever. And I do think it's much harder. My bad, Corey. I think I'm cut you off.
Oh no, you all good. I agree. I definitely think it's probably harder for a woman. But I think also too, which is important for both parties involved, is to understand who you are. And so, although I hear the outside noise, it doesn't affect my daily walk and who I am and who God has called me to be. And so, I think that's important, whether male or female. So it's there's always going to be outside noise. There's always going to be somebody saying something, but it's just important to know who you are in Christ and know what He's called you to and brought you through. So.
I only know it from like a child's perspective, but I was old enough when my parents got divorced. I knew when a man was shooting his shot at my mom. And a lot of men would approach it like my mama needed men. And that's what I didn't like. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, oh, well, you know, she's divorced. She got 4 kids. She need a man. Like, you know, Negro, she don't need you. You know what I mean? I think that's the thing. I think, you know, the questions that aren't answered, that are answered through conversation, when people know that you've been married and or have a child, there's a couple of things that they can check off the list. You know, just keeping it all the way 100. If you got a child, then they know you're not a virgin. They know you don't have some sex, right? You know what I'm saying? So then they can approach it in this manner like, oh, well, you know, you've done it before. You feel me? And a lot of the reason why I bring that up is because, you know, I've even seen some of my homegirls who have children, you know, and you know, another man may approach them, and it's like it's an expectation. Like, it's not something that's off the table. Like, you know, they kind of get bent out of shape when she's like, well, you know, I'm saving myself for marriage, or, you know, things like that. You know, I mean, even my wife, you know, my wife had right now when she was barely 20 years old, 19, 20 years old. You know, so there's a sense of expectation that she would talk about a lot of times as it pertains to the men in the church that would approach her and talk to her. So, you know, I think that's one of the things too. We put these stigmas on people because we have some sort of sense of the things that they've done and or not done. So, you know, that's where I would, you know, settle that, if you will.
All right. Corey.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the flip, I'll be honest with y'all, you know, it's kind of going along the lines what Vince is saying is that's low-key attractive to me now, those who have been through a divorce and they still rocking for Christ, or those who are now, you know, been through a relationship and have a kid and they still rocking for Christ. Like that's attractive to me as well. Not to, you know, put anyone better than anyone else, but those are just some things that we're able to see, or I'm able to see, that are actually attractive. Like, man, you've been through the storm and you made it out the other side with Christ. So that's another way to look at it.
All right. I like that.
Can I jump in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to like, you know, compare if it's harder or, you know, easier, but I will say it depends on the nature of the divorce. If it's within the body, I think that comes with, you know, people potentially choosing sides and people, you know, maybe feeling like, you know, someone is off limits for various reasons. And the other thing that also came to mind too is just that as a woman, I do think that the ratios factor into it as well. Like Jonathan said, I was having this discussion with a few friends of mine, and we were just talking about how, you know, numbers wise, you know, that's already happening. But then when you get to someone who's a Christian and then also somebody who's willing to wait, because I think for me, initially, I took for granted, I'm like, if he's in the body, then that means that, you know, he's doing X, Y, and Z. But like, that's like the starting point. You still got to get to know the person and make sure that you're on the same page with them as well. So you add that in and, you know, it can seem difficult, but I also realized that when I had that frame of thought, like at times I felt like hopeless, but then I realized that I was operating from a place of scarcity. And ultimately, it only takes one, just one person, right? And, you know, that I find hope in that, and like knowing that God is an abundant God and like he can provide. So yeah, you know, the numbers may be this way, you know, it may seem difficult to find somebody that has values that are aligned with yours, but it just takes one ultimately.
Okay. So in terms of dating in the church, all right, dating seems to be just challenging in the church and out of the church, but what are some non-negotiables dating in the church?
I think the single people need to answer this question because I don't know.
Non-negotiables. I mean, obviously, physical is definitely off limits, but also along lines with Christina was saying with the emotional boundaries as well. You know, there's a barometer in which we can go deep. You know, we're not just gonna go in on some of the deep things that, you know, God has brought me through or, you know, brought me to. But non-negotiable, definitely for me, I would say being in His presence, in His presence, not just going to the building, but, you know, being in the presence of God and being spirit led. It's a non-negotiable for me, just where I'm at in my walk. I've seen relationships work with those unequally yoked by just speaking for myself or where I'm at and being engulfed in God's work in the vineyard. Definitely having somebody who's spirit led in the presence of God already is non-negotiable for me.
I'm of the same mind. In addition to like, physical stuff, the willingness to wait is also like spiritual. And I had to realize, and writing bios for dating apps kind of helped me with this, but like, it's not just that you go to church, it's that like you're actively serving God, you have a relationship, like you're studying, you're in ministry, your actions show it. It's not just your words. And for me, that's important because I think in relationships, at least for me, there are times where I want to just go so deep with that person and I can sort of get things out of balance, but I need somebody that has the same spiritual understanding where it's like God comes first. And, if I'm doing that, like they can check me. And then if they're doing that, I can check them. But just having that spiritual foundation is super important for me. And, I feel like maybe for some people it can work, but I don't feel like it can work for me. Like I want someone who's spiritual and has relationship with God.
Okay.
I'll throw another coachable too. The spiritual one, that's first and foremost. I would say coachable too, I think that's an important attribute, just being able to be coachable or teachable, because we all got to leave room for the spirit to help us grow. There's no way we 99 years old, God willing, if he allows us that long, you'll still be able to learn something. So just having that attribute already and not coming off as a know-it-all and I'm a master at this. So that's definitely a non-negotiable too.
Okay. So
Can I add one more? I'm sorry.
wait, before you add one, let me do this. I'm gonna blame myself for this. Let me rephrase the question. Y'all remember that show Family Feud when somebody give an answer and everybody, good answer, right? Y'all gave some good answers. I want y'all to be more specific. So when I ask what are non-negotiables, I need y'all to be more practical, right? So what are some things, and Vince, this is not strictly related to the single people. This is also to us married, right? And think about your spouse, even before you met your spouse, or even now as you're married to your spouse. What are some non-negotiables, right? I'm talking about like anything. It could be bad hygiene, right? Person can love God and serve and minister and do all those good things, but maybe they just don't seem to care about their look and their appearance, right? I know we put a lot of emphasis on appearance, right? And let's talk about that. You know what I'm saying? How important is appearance, right? Because I know in the church, we try to look at people's heart. We try to look pat, but how important is that? So say what you were going to say, Christina, and then elaborate.
Well, hold on. I think those are practical answers, Los. I got to get some pushback on that because, Corey said that, be coachable. And I mean, you can't be married if you're not coachable. There's certain things that, I put on in the morning. I'm like, man, it's fly, and my wife be like, nah. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, things like, as it pertains to, your physical appearances and things like that, man, like, people will have their opinions about that anyway. And so in a relationship, you got to be willing to, because you like what you like. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, you like what you like, man. So I think it's practical, but I think it's subjective to the person.
Yes.
Yes. So the answer, I believe I think those are suitable answers. I think the big thing is like, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Corey and Christina, in some regard, it's like, I got to see that first before we can even start to talk about, 2 for $20 at Applebee's. Shout out to Gary Jones. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the vibe I'm getting from this. Like for me, when it came to dating, it wasn't even a matter of, these other facets of the relationship. Like if I couldn't get past that first part, like if I couldn't even get you to, come sit and worship with me, or if you had no understanding of why I go to night service, or if you have no understanding of my call, if you have no understanding of who I am as a man and as a preacher and things of that nature, you know. And another thing too, I think too as well, you know, for you, Corey, I think there's also this stigma of what people perceive somebody in a pastoral role or a preacher role to be, right? They envision this perfection. You know what I'm saying? You're not supposed to be divorced. You know, you're not supposed to drink. You're not supposed to smoke. You're not supposed to listen to Tupac. You're supposed to be in your house with a preacher robe on and a pinky ring and reading your Bible all day. You know what I'm saying? If you're not doing that, you're not a preacher. You know what I'm saying? So this idea, this stigma of your call, I think that has a lot more to do with the fact that, you know, it has a lot more to do with your passion more than anything else. But when you get somebody that understands that, then you also get somebody that understands who Jesus is too. And so, you know, in a nutshell, I believe, to be quite honest, you know, if I'm hearing y'all correctly, that this is level one. Like, we ain't even got to meeting parents. We ain't got to me knowing what kind of family you come from. If I can't witness, you know, the worshiper in you, we wasting our time.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. Absolutely. And just being where we are. And again, it's all glory to God, because y'all know I've been around. So just thank God I'm in this place, and the arena that I'm in right now, this spiritual war. It's like, it's no different than being in the world when I used to run out in the streets. It's like, I'm not finna go get no game goofy woman that can't wash my back. You know, like, that ain't gonna fly, because we're gonna end up getting caught up and killed. So I'm out here in the spiritual realm. It's no different. She's got to be tapped in as well, because we out here in the trenches. But to answer Carlos, as far as physical does matter. I ain't gonna lie. It is a part of it. It's a part of it. But I think for me personally, not so much light skin, dark skin, tall, you know, like nothing shapes and colors, but just being confident in who you are. Like, you know, if you're a big woman, be a big woman, be confident in that. If you're a light skinned woman, be confident in that. Natural, rock the natural, you know, press, rock the press. So my thing is not so much the actual look, but just being confident in who you are and what God has given you. So
what about finger waves? You like finger waves?
Hey, don't sleep. Don't sleep.
Hey, the finger waves, look, just be confident in you. It's a lot of different styles. I'm creative as well, so just be confident in you. But
Yeah. Christina, what you got?
The one that came to mind for me, and I have a whole list, but when I say I have a list,
Oh,
that
Lord.
doesn't mean that.
Oh,
So here's the
Lord.
thing. I think that a list is helpful to help you figure things out. And I think as you interact with people, you can get an idea of things that you like. But my list is not like I am closed off if they don't have like everything that's on that list, right? It's just an idea of like, you know, what I would want. And I definitely leave the door open for God to show me what he has for me as well. But the one that I was going to say is emotional intelligence. I feel like it's super important to be with someone who has began to unpack things that they've been through, and that has the language to talk about things, because in relationships, like, you're gonna have disagreements and conflicts, but like, to have the tools to be able to work through those things is super important. And with regard to attraction, I do think that it's important. For me, attraction actually isn't necessarily the first thing that I notice. If that is the first thing that I notice, I'm a little hesitant to even go there. But for me, attraction grows. Like, I may not notice someone at first or like be immediately attracted to them, but as I get to know them, that attraction can either grow or not. So it's not like the end all be all.
Okay. Before we go to Jonathan, give us the top 3 things on your list, and don't try to scan it. Give us the top 3 things.
I have to pull the list up, so come back to me.
All right, well, go ahead, Jonathan. She's scanning it, really.
Nah, I was gonna follow up on something Vince said, and you know, I do believe, like, as you get to know someone, don't take them to Red Lobster on the first date. You got to invest some time and get to know them. But I do think it's important to see how they treat other people, because they always say take someone to a restaurant to see how they treat the waiter or the waitress, and I do think that's important because that'll tell you a lot about how they treat other people. It's also a Christian attribute that we should be looking at. You should be looking at as you date someone. How do you treat people who you don't necessarily know, or a stranger, that type of thing? So I do think that's important, and I don't think you would necessarily get that from talking to them. Maybe you would, but it's also good to see in person. Maybe at like a Starbucks, so you don't spend a ton of money, or you go Dutch.
Oh, brother. My brother is giving us the frugal advice. We ain't forgot about that list, Christina. What's the top 3 things?
So the top 3, we've already discussed 2. Number 1 is relationship with God. Number 2 is abstinence. And the third is living potential. So somebody who sets goals like that, spiritual, self-improvement, financial, and accomplishes them. And then I'll give you the 4th, and that's somebody who's compassionate.
It's a good list.
Nice.
It is. Honestly, that is pretty much a good list. I thought you'd have 6'4", a baller, drive a Benz, CEO. I'm picking on you. Alvin, big homie.
Yeah, man. Listen, man, I'm listening to y'all, man. And Sabrina was not on my radar, right? As I said, she wasn't on my radar in that way. When she got on my radar, it's because of a spiritual text. And we got married within 6 months of us starting to talk, right? What made us move wasn't so much that we wanted to, have sex. We were pure. We didn't cross that line until our wedding night, right? It was more like within the first couple of weeks, I knew, bro. I knew. Within the first couple of weeks, I knew. Because I had so much, I was about y'all age when, maybe a little older when we started talking. Yeah, a little bit older. I was a little bit older than y'all when we started talking. So I had so much baggage. I had so many bricks over my heart too. Because I just, I'm a Cancer, right? I know y'all don't believe in astrological stuff and all that because y'all good Christians. But man, Cancers we sensitive people, man. We sensitive about our stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my art, right? We sensitive people, man. And it only took one good time for my heart to be like shattered. Like when I got hurt, and that wasn't even from my ex-wife, right? It was from, somebody before that. And so my heart, even when I got married, my heart wasn't, really open as far as emotionally open. I was like, man, you know what I'm saying? I ain't getting no younger. I might as well do it. In that first couple of weeks of talking to Sabrina outside of the context of church, outside of the context of, just scriptures, and just seeing her heart, it took all those layers off. It's just, I don't know, man. I said it was the Holy Spirit, it was God, like opening, God was opening up my heart. Like he was like, here she is. And I became vulnerable. And all that, like going too fast emotionally, man, we did that, man. I ain't gonna lie. We went too fast emotionally, and that drew us in. So there was a good part to that for me, but it was also a bad part because when it got bad, those emotional ties that we had already got into didn't allow for us to tap out, even though we weren't married yet. There are times we should have broke up, you know what I'm saying? But because we were emotionally invested already, so we kept going. So anyways, man, my story is a little bit different. She was not my type. Light skin. I like pretty, beautiful. My wife is beautiful. Like for real. And I don't want to have to deal with no dudes. Oh, look at her. Man, that's not my type. I don't want to have to fight with y'all. Every night I gotta fight to prove my love. I didn't want to have to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, nah, that's not my type. And then spiritual maturity. I was a preacher. You know what I'm saying? I knew that's my call. I know that. She wasn't no preacher's wife. You know what I'm saying? At the beginning, she wasn't, but she was what I needed. I prayed for somebody who's gonna help me get to heaven, not somebody who's gonna make me a better preacher who was gonna look good on my arm. She didn't play that. She wasn't that role for me. So, man, my stories, it's everywhere. But that's really how ours was. Did I have a list? Yeah, I had a list. On my list, she checked off nothing on my list. She had kids. I didn't want to date nobody with kids. God was like, you want to hear me laugh? You want to hear me laugh? Tell me what you want to do. She had 2 daughters. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I don't want to date nobody with kids. I did that already. You know what I'm saying? And then when I lost my ex-wife, I lost those kids too. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. And here I go. You know what I'm saying? So my story's a little bit different, man. My list got thrown out the window. All my, how she looked and all that kind of stuff. Man, God just took your boy out, man. I was blindsided.
Hey, can I jump in real quick? It's funny now because me and Antonelle reconnected in October 2010. We was married by August. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we had a ceremony in September. We were married by August. And I mean, I went through a horrible breakup, a little bit before me and her reconnected. And I had a plan. Like my plan was my cousin, he lived in Houston. He had a real big house, him and a couple of roommates. His roommates had moved out. It was going to be me and him. I was going to move to Houston and just do the, live a single life and kick it and chill. And there was nothing spiritual about that move. That move was all fleshly motivated because I wanted to be in H-Town with my big cuz, man. So, and it was like, it's just like, boom, like literally, I knew my lease was going to be up. I graduated from school. And then all of a sudden we reconnected. You know what I'm saying? Not only did we reconnect, it wasn't something I was looking for. Not only was it not something I was looking for, again, like the idea that quintessential, what we define as the epitome of a preacher's wife, that ain't my wife. But again, that's what I needed. I needed that support. And I think that's the big thing. You want somebody to support you, but also understands your grind, because some people are content with certain things, when you out here grinding because you think they want something that they may not even want, and so you got to be real, real careful. It's huge that, Chrissy, you brought up potential. Understanding that potential of a person is imperative, because they may just be cool with, hey, I just want to, work my job and come home and, watch my sitcoms and do it all over again tomorrow. And you get in a marriage, you're like, yo, there's so much more that we can accomplish. We're like, well, I never intended to accomplish those things. I like where I'm at. But then on the other side, you may have somebody that might be a little too driven. You got to be ready for that. Like it takes a special woman to deal with my schedule. It takes a special woman to deal with like all the things that I have going on. I mean, y'all know, like every hour of the day could be booked if I didn't learn the power of a 2-letter word. No. And we have 3 sons, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, God is good, but man, you definitely have plans and he be like, watch this. And so, I think that's one of the things that I believe single people have to embrace is that plans get thwarted, but you have to be able to, you got to be able to monitor and adjust. And I think that's what dating is all about, is the ability to be able to monitor and adjust. Because it was like literally like she moved down to Texas in June. She didn't have her own apartment. Y'all can do math. She didn't have her own apartment. Here we are, me, her, Raynell. We married in August. Then I moved to Arizona. You know what I'm saying? Now I've lost all home field advantage. I don't know nothing about Phoenix, nothing, right? And I remember the first time we went out, one of the reasons why we don't go out is because the first time we went out, I thought I was going to have to knock a brother out. So, we stopped that. We go to restaurants and nice museums, but we don't go out because my temper bad, especially when it comes to stuff like that.
All right, Vince, we turn the gangster down, man. We take your wife out every once in a while, turn the gangster down, man. But I feel where you're coming from. Let me throw this out there, man. You spoke on this, and I'm just gonna ask this generally to the fellas here. So you said you were planning to move to Houston to stay with your cousin, and it sounded like you was gonna live that single life, correct?
Absolutely.
So does it seem like, and I could be wrong, why does it seem like men wait so late in the church to settle down and find a good woman when there's clearly single women ready and available to be courted and dated?
Well, we talked about this on the Dear Fathers. Remember that, Al? We talked about that. Like, I was raised, my father raised me not to be, don't tie yourself down too early. Get your house, buy you a couple cars, see the world, date plenty of women. I was conditioned to think that was a rite of passage, that like marriage was something that you did when you had nothing else to do.
Sow your wild oats.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So, that's what I was conditioned to do. That's what I was conditioned to believe. It wasn't about, being holy. It was about being out there in these streets. So, because that's what the older men that were influential in my life told me. In your 20s, this is what you do in your 20s.
Yeah.
Teflon John.
An alternate take is when, and I can say this as a married man now, but when you realize what marriage is and your responsibilities of marriage, and if you decide to have kids, like it's an awesome responsibility, and if you're not ready for that, don't do it. And I've had mentors, they used to tell me all the time, man, wait as long as you can. They didn't, some of them who were worldly will say to sow your oats and stuff, but those who were spiritual, they would be like, wait as long as you can, bro, because once you do it, that's you married, like you got some responsibilities. And I understood what they were saying, but I didn't understand what they were saying until I got married. So so yeah, I mean, marriage is an awesome responsibility for men and women, and if you're not ready for that, and I don't think you'll ever know like what you're getting into until you're actually in it.
Yeah.
But if you're not ready for that, don't do it, and don't waste. And also, don't waste anybody's time, because I think that's where the fellas get in trouble. They'll pretend like they interested in getting married, and then they waste the young lady's time, and then she's mad, rightfully so, and it just the loop goes on and on. So if you know you don't want to be married, like, don't be out here playing around with our ladies.
So let me ask this then. I'm gonna go to you, Corey. What y'all boys be waiting on, man? What y'all single brothers be waiting on, man, with all these beautiful single Christian women in the church?
Well, yeah, I'm on the other side of that. I move fast. I was with my ex-wife for 5 months, maybe that. And then, what I'm saying, when I got married, and, learned a lot from that, learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about marriage. So, I mean, when I'm in go mode, I go. So that's that. But I mean, right now, I've been shooting my shot. I shoot my shots. Like I said, I can't speak for that either, because I shoot my shots for women that I'm interested in. So I don't know. Yeah, I can't answer for nobody else. All I can say is, I definitely have shot my shots for sure.
Big homie.
Let me give you my bird's eye view. There are a lot of factors, I believe, that go into it. I believe it was mentioned earlier, like people, you got this numbers game. So what if I choose the wrong one, right? Like, I choose this one over here, but then this one over here, who I've been liking and crushing on since the first youth conference, all of a sudden, like, oh man. So I think that's one of the things that people may, like, what if I choose the wrong one? Another thing is like, man, I don't want to mess up her life, so I'm gonna go over here in the world, and I'm gonna date old girl and do what I want to do with old girl over there, right? Because what I'm saying, I don't want to, mess up this young lady's life. I think that's a real thought. Like, man, I want to have fun, and can I have fun with girls in the church? We know that happens too. So I think there are like a myriad of things that goes on, but there's also some emotional things, some emotional intelligent things, the lack thereof that go on. There's spiritual things, but there are a lot of things that goes on as to why these dudes aren't ready to shoot their shot. I believe a lot of these dudes aren't ready.
Alvin, you're kind of muffled just a little bit. We can hear you, but it's very staticky. But I don't want to cut you off, but I want to push this I want to keep this conversation going, and I want to ask this question to the Quiet Storm. So, Quiet Storm, do you feel like men in the church are more interested in men outside? Excuse me. Do you feel like men in the church are more interested in women? Wait. Hey, let's not lie. Pause, right? Pause. Look, that's a reality too. All right, that's a reality too. But do you feel like men in the church are more interested in women outside of the church?
I wouldn't say I feel that way necessarily. One thing that I want to throw in there is, and I mean, I know that it sounds super cliche, but I feel like it's so real. I think that timing too is important, like in God's will for our life, because I thought that I wanted to be married by 26. But when I think back in retrospect, like I'm glad that I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't because I was one of those people that I was referencing earlier in that, like, I wasn't grounded spiritually. And I realized that had I gotten married at that point, that I could have easily lost my faith because of that. So I think that there definitely opportunity in the body. I think that people have to be open. I realize in retrospect that although I thought I was open and ready to date, like I was super closed off. I was giving closed vibes because of things that I had experienced. So, and it's interesting because when I became open, that's when, I noticed more interest in my life. But I don't think I could do a blanket statement and say that, men outside the body are necessarily more interested in women outside the body. I think that yeah, it just depends. People have shot their shot. I've shot my shot before as well. But yeah, I don't see it that way.
So as a single woman in the church, we talked about the numbers game earlier. Do you ever feel like you're overlooked?
Not necessarily. I prayed to God that I was just like, if I don't need to just be dating, like I'm fine with you bringing him in my life and only him when you're ready for it to happen. So like, I don't need like a bunch of people to necessarily shoot their shot. I do think that, of course, it's a factor that there are way more women than men, of course, but like, yeah, like I want to do it when it's purposeful. And I think more of quality instead of quantity.
Big homie, what's up?
Oh, I didn't say nothing. I don't have nothing to say. I was just listening to what Christina's Quiet Storm has said. And then I was about to be messy, so I'm just gonna go back on mute.
He had a good point, though. He definitely had a good point as far as, just seeing some of my other brothers just not being in the space that they need to be because of some of the strongholds that, are holding them back. That's definitely something I see, and I try to help and encourage my brothers because it's important to have that identity to know who you are in Christ before jumping in marriage. And even further than that, your identity, your purpose, and all those things, it's you put yourself in the best position when you have those things aligned and you have that relationship with God and why you're here on earth. That's major. And so that's why it's equally important for all of us to just continue to keep grinding and getting in the word and all those things. And again, it sounds cliche, but it really will put you in the best place so you can hear God's voice and know why you're here on earth. And yeah, if you don't know why you're here on earth, it's good for that man to be alone, straight up, like, because it's going to be very hard to move in the way that God would have you to move.
Right, man. Real quick, just piggybacking off what TSS just said, man. Look, this biblical idea that God shows us from Adam and Eve, like Adam had purpose before he got his bride. He knew his purpose. He had a relationship with God before God brought him his bride. He was already working in the kingdom. He's doing kingdom business for God brought him his bride. And so you don't even know what to look for in your helpmate if you don't have a right, if you're not walking in purpose and know what your purpose is. You don't know who's going to help you get to heaven, who's going to help you on your journey towards whatever purpose God has for you if you are aligned with God in the right way. Now, can God move? God can do all things. So yeah, can it be backwards? Yeah, but I'm just telling you, it's easier to know who to choose to be in your life for the rest of your life when you know yourself a little bit, you know your purpose especially. So when Corey was just talking, man, that thought sparked my head, sparked in my head. So I just want to drop that real quick.
Yeah, that's why we call you the big homie, man. That was well said, well said. And we're coming to a close here. It's been great talking with you guys. I know time goes by fast, right? Especially when you're having fun. I'm just gonna ask one last question, and I'm gonna ask if you guys all could tackle it before we close. But I would like to hear from our single folks as well as our married folks on this thing. Do you guys feel like in 2021, people still in the church, I'm talking about, not in the world, but in the church, do you guys feel like people still value marriage as a sanctified institution? King, push back. We'll start with you.
I believe so. I believe that's inside and outside the church. I believe marriage is still respected. I believe marriage is still um, something that people hold in high regard. I just believe that the expectation has changed because the generation before us, was getting married a lot earlier than we are. The generation before us, um, you know, I believe weathered some storms a little bit better. And when I say better, I believe that just had a little bit more. I think they were willing to just kind of stand in and fight a little bit longer. Um, and I say this only from my context because uh, many of the couples that me and Antoinelle are very good friends with. Like a lot of them are significantly older than us. For the most part. I mean, I'm 35 and I have a 12-year-old. So even when I go up to like the schools, when I go to my son's school, most of the parents are a lot older than us. And so I think the big thing, I don't think it's respect. I just think people are taking their time to get to that place. And I believe that's okay. I think that's the big thing. If we just let people do them and be patient and not force them to kind of rush into things. I know parents want grandchildren and things of that nature, but I believe it's better to be patient and have success than to rush and have to fix mistakes. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. So with a lot of the singles, at Genesee Avenue, or the singles that I'm friends with, I've seen both sides. I see successful marriages that are flourishing, but I also have a lot of my friends that are divorced, that are going through divorces right now. And that's not fun. There are some very, very tough spots financially, emotionally, spiritually, really trying to repurpose their lives. It's similar to in a house, when the foundation shifts, there's a lot of work that goes into, fixing a crooked home. So, man, just, my advice would be just, take your time. This is not something, if I told you that this is something you're going to have for your entire life, no, you don't got to rush into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back on King, push back just a little bit. Depends on the demographic for me. So if I'm talking to people coming out of college or, in their 20s, early 20s, I would really encourage them to totally, what Vince just said, as it pertains to, like really take your time, analyze yourself, get to learn yourself. You're still learning yourself. We all thought we knew what we wanted at the age of 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 30, right? We thought we knew what we wanted, but those things shifted because we really didn't know, have a good grasp of who we were. And I do believe this younger generation is doing better by themselves as it pertains to mental health. I think that's a great avenue for them to make sure that they're engaged in. But learning yourself is vitally important to making sure that when you're hearing people and when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with them from the right place. So for younger people, yeah, I agree. Take your time. If you're a little bit older, I still think you need to figure yourself out. And you got to be honest with yourself. Like, what is your purpose in dating? Like, we never really gotten to what is dating, right? We didn't talk about biblical dating. Is biblical dating, even something that's, in scripture, right? But, what is your purpose in dating? Like, why are you dating? Are you dating to waste somebody's time? Are you dating to go out to have a free dinner? Are you dating to go take some trips? What's your purpose in it? And making sure you have a purpose in dating, because I didn't have a purpose in dating. I was just dating, man. I was just going out, wherever, whoever I could whoever I hang out with, I was hanging out with. The first time I had a purpose or like a real purpose was, I think it was with my wife, to be honest with you. Everybody else is kind of like, okay, we're gonna go out, hang out, and then, man, we don't want to fornicate. Oh, we're fornicating. Oh man, we better get married, right? Or oh man, So, having a purpose, like having a plan for your dating life. Like I've never heard anybody say, plan your dating life, plan how you want to date, plan what dating looks like for you. I've never heard that. And I think that that's important to do. But I also think, like, Vince said, we got married, and Corey said too, we got married within 5, 6, 7 months of, establishing ourselves with our bride. So for older saints, you can you put the category of age range on it however you want to. Don't feel like, you're rushing if you do get married within the first, 6 months. Hopefully you have some emotional wherewithal about yourself, as well as relational wherewithal about yourself to be able to navigate things that younger people just haven't navigated yet. So that's the little pushback on it. It's just the age range as it pertains to, taking your time and not necessarily having to take your time.
I rock with that. And one of the best pieces of advice my father gave me, he said, when you know, you know. And don't let nobody else tell you otherwise. So, hey, if in 4 or 5 months, 6 months, hey, it is what it is. Pray to God, give you clarity and that you're making the right decision. But if you feel like you need, some more time, yeah, I rock with that, Alvin. I'm with it.
Yes, sir.
Teflon.
I just want to say, Pusha T also said, if you know, you know. One thing I'll say, again, I kind of echo what Vince and Alvin have said, although you have some old fools out there too, who, still playing around. So it's about maturity, not necessarily age or chronological. I'll say, be careful what you have on your list. Christina gave us her list earlier, which was great. I'll say when I was younger, we all like stuff, right? Like certain skin tones and physical features, but those things do change. It can change over time. So be careful about what you put on your list and make sure your list aligns with what God wants you to have if you want to get married. This is assuming you want to get married, but make sure your list aligns with what God wants, because he already kind of lined it up in the word. And a lot of times we kind of go off on our own, like, yeah, God, I know you said this, but I really want that. And then we end up kind of in a world of hurt. So just be careful with what you're actually looking for, and make sure, you're not looking at worldly standards, what the world finds attractive, what the world finds important, education. And I'm not saying that's not important at all, but that doesn't make someone a good man or a good woman because they have a PhD or because they're a CEO. Like they could have achieved the highest levels of success professionally, and at home they are like a bear to live with. So those things, again, they matter, but they are not the things that God says are important in a spouse. Again, if you want to be in a committed married relationship. So be careful what you look for.
TSS.
Yeah, getting back to the question, I do think, for us in the body of Christ, we do value marriage, but I also feel like we're not doing enough to help that process. Like there's not enough premarital conferences, not enough single conferences, not enough divorce, how to bounce back. It's not enough of these things out here. And to be honest, which kind of ties back to what I'm talking about this Sunday, it ain't nobody saying nothing. Ain't nobody saying what happened. I'm a rarity that's willing to talk about my divorce and the good, the bad, the ugly, what I learned and everything. But we got to have more in that. And so just prayerfully going forward, those older saints who have more experience can maybe talk more about the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I feel like our generation, we talk about it. But I do believe that we need to have more things in place to actually aid in that. I mean, we look at it, right? Marriage is very important in this world. The enemy attacks marriages and works from there. And so we can have strong marriages, we can have strong families. We have strong families, we have strong community. We have strong community, then we rock it. So it's important. So yeah, I do feel like we do take it seriously, but I still don't feel like we're doing enough to help prepare everybody. Then the flip side of that is, my generation is also hard-headed too. So even when there are some things, some conversations, sometimes we just hard-headed and gonna do what we want to do. But nevertheless, I do feel like we still should have more things surrounding marriage and all the components, good, bad, and ugly. So yeah.
Nice. Quiet Storm, bring us home.
I would agree with what has been said, and I would just add that I think that that people still value marriage, but there is less pressure around it to get married by a certain time. So the conversation that I've been having amongst, my single friends is around not just contentment during this season of singleness, but joy, like actually enjoying it and taking advantage of it. And I think, in earlier generations, there was just pressure, especially for women, to like get married by a certain time, not to wait too long. And I feel like that's eased up. And then I'll also add that I think another thing that has happened is there is less pressure for people to stay in relationships and endure abuse. And a lot of that, happened in earlier generations. And it was a part of the reason why some marriages may have lasted long. But I see so much strength in people who are able to walk away from certain situations that are traumatic and that entail abuse. So I think there's just less pressure on both ends.
Nice. Nice, nice, nice. This has been a great time. I feel like we need a part 2, man. What y'all think?
Run it.
Yeah, I think we need a part 2, and I think it needs to be live so we can field some questions from some of the people. We can figure out the details on that, but I would love to do it again with some questions coming from if it's Facebook, YouTube, whatever medium we take. I think definitely a lot of discussions to be had. I gotta say this because Corey brought out something that was really important, man. Having the conversation around what it looks like, where it's not confrontational, we just talking. Let's just talk. Talk about what happened in a broken situation, what's happening even in some of the marriages now that are struggling, so that people can see the reality of what's going on, because the devil is big, man. And like you said, man, strong marriages build strong communities, which build strong cities, which builds a strong, you know what I'm saying, a strong country, right? And the reason why our country is so whack, the reason why our communities are so busted is because, you know what I'm saying, there's so many different factors, but we don't have a strong family unit, right? And we know, all of us on this particular podcast know that, in our community, it has been very strategic, not only by Satan himself, but by little Satan, man, who have disproportionately locked up men, black men and black women, disproportionately, and that's impacted our community. So we have to. This is my little Christian feel now. We got to get back to discipling. We got to get back into the communities to disciple. So busy trying to shine each other out in the church. We got to get back into the streets, disciple these men, so these numbers can kind of have more balance. If there's no men in the church, not because they're not men out there who need the Lord, it's because the church is not out there discipling folks, going out and teaching, going out to all nations. We want to go out and, do all this other stuff, but we don't want to go to our hood, our community, that nation that looks like us, and preach the gospel and give them hope. So, man, I think we got a lot of work to do. And if we take care of God's business, God will take care of our business. I do believe that includes healthier marriages. I do believe that marriage is still God's way. And I do believe that people want to be married. They're just afraid to be married.
Yeah. All right. Before we end it, I'm going to ask a couple questions, and these are yes or no answers and no elaborations. Can y'all agree to that?
All right. All right.
Yeah.
You got like what?
Maybe.
3, 4, 5. You got 6 preachers on here.
Hey, so look, I'm only going to ask these questions if I can get a group consensus. Yes or no answers with no elaborations. And this may be where we need to start round 2. So give me a thumbs up. All right, here we go. Yes or no answers. Is it okay to date outside the body?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Discipling.
Reach one, teach one.
If you dated someone 10, 15 years ago, are they off limits to your crew?
Depends.
No.
Depends.
I don't care now, but
No elaborations, yes or no?
You can have them scallywags.
No.
Depends.
Does social media impact dating in the church?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it okay to do online dating in the church?
Yes.
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 All right, I'm gonna leave it there and we'll pick up round 2.
All right.
Thank y'all.